Hello and welcome back to the Cardiff Central podcast. My name's Dan, back in the hot seat this week after we've avoided the autumn internationals for good reason. Joined with Harley again. Harley, how are you?
Good evening, Dan. Thanks again for sitting in for me last week whilst I was in wee Paris on work.
Yeah, that was a right hospital pass talking about Wales over the last few weeks. And then rather than dwell on the autumn internationals, we thought we'd get a special guest in to lift the mood amongst all of us. So we've got a man who played for Bristol, made 80 appearances for Cardiff over 5 years, 2017, 2022. Challenge Cup winner in 2018. It's the real man in the blue scrum cap to us. Olly Robinson, how are you, mate?
Very well, thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
No problem at all. Good to chat a bit of back in the good times of rugby rather than dwell in the current Welsh rugby doldrums. But to go way back for you, where did your rugby journey start? Where does obviously this runs in the family a bit. I think everybody's aware. But where's your first time playing? Where does that begin for you?
Yeah, so my rugby journey started as long as I can remember, if I'm honest. As I'm sure you can imagine, my dad's had me doing 2v1s and all sorts of Christmas parties and no. Yeah, look, I've loved all sport, to be honest, since I was a kid. Some of my earliest memories are of being down at the rec watching my dad play. And being at Pontypridd, people tended to remind me when I came over to Cardiff of the Chiefs tackle on my dad, but he'd hidden from me for about 25 years. So it's been good fun reliving that with him over the last few years. And I first really started playing down at Bath Minis. And yeah, I've got some lifelong friends from them that I still catch up with now, which is awesome. I was probably 6 years old when I first started down there, on the back of the rec, and yeah, so some great memories.
Good stuff. And then sort of journeying into your pro career, I think you sort of did the university route before it was cool, really. You know, you got sort of Alex Donbrandt and Tom Pearson and Ellis Bevan now, the Buck Super Rugby. But so you did Loughborough to Moseley in the championship, is that right?
I did, yeah. So I was part of Bath Academy since about the age of 15, and then when I left school, I was 17, 71 kilos. So some way off playing back row professionally. So I went to uni, put on about 30 kilos in a year. Found beer and pizza and 2-for-1 pizzas opposite me, which was all good fun. But yeah, I had 3 great years at Loughborough University, which I would absolutely champion any young player going and doing, and mainly for me it was about growing up. You know, I'd never been away from home, and 3 years up in Loughborough, which I made some great mates there, really good people, and we played a really good standard rugby as well. We played in National 2 North, which for anyone that hasn't played in the national leagues, if you've played in the southern ones, doesn't really count because the northern ones were tough and just gnarly forward that wanted to beat up the young students. So that was good fun. And then I signed for Moseley straight out of Loughborough. My first semi-professional contract, I guess you could. I was full-time professional, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure you could call it a professional contract really. I was going out coaching in schools, which were brilliant, and I worked with Kevin Maggs, who is an absolute legend of the game and a legend of a bloke. And feel really fortunate to have had those 2 years with some great people, and a lot of Welsh lads actually down there at the time. So Corey Hill and I played in the same team there. Reece Buckley who played for the Dragons for a bit, and Mike Powell, who played London Welsh, Celtic Warriors, scored a fantastic try for Wasps, I think, in a Premiership Cup game, which he will tell anyone he sees, probably shown the video about 15 times each. But yeah, look, I can't speak highly enough of Moseley and Kevin Maggs. I've got vivid memories of being out at about half past 8 at night with Kevin Maggs with his full tackle suit on, arm guard on, running at me in a dark channel. I think I made about 50% of the tackles at the time, because it was the highlight of his week, doing tackling practice with me after the session. So, but yeah. So.
Do you think that gave you like a sort of a real grounding in the game, which you maybe wouldn't have got in the academy? So obviously you've worked since a bit within the development pathways. Do you think would you recommend to players to sort of step out of their comfort zone like that at some point in their development?
Absolutely. The best thing I did. So going to Loughborough, I played 20 games a year at Loughborough. I went to Moseley. I played 50 games in 2 years, and at a really good standard. We played in the Championship, so we played against Newcastle, who came down, and some fantastic games against Jersey and London Scottish, and London Welsh were in the league as well. So I had a real exposure to some really top level rugby. I think Moseley. I think I was 2 from 2 against Bristol at one point, which one of them when my dad was coaching, which was good fun. So yeah, look, I would absolutely recommend for any young player to go and just get game time and get out and play as much as possible.
Sound advice there. Moving on to sort of your time at Bristol. So there were a lot of ups and downs during that time. So what was it like being in a club that sort of, expanded in the way Bristol did at the time, and now they're a mainstay in the Premiership?
Yeah, look, I think Bristol has always been a force in the English game, and they had a really tough time. Probably the late 2000s, when had some financial issues and just about stayed in the Championship one year, and that's testament to all the young lads that they brought through at that point. And I think, again, it was just a brilliant opportunity for me to be exposed to, as a young man, to some fantastic players. You think of Olly Robinson, Dwayne Peel, Ian Evans, Ryan Jones, all were at Bristol at the time. Jack Lamb was a fantastic role model for me, and actually my rugby hero, Ross Rennie, who it was an open side flanker for Edinburgh and Scotland, and obviously I'd sort of grown up my teenage years watching him play for Scotland and Edinburgh when my dad was coaching there, and to be able to play with him and be around him really gave me a great grounding in sort of how to improve my game and develop as an open side.
I'll say if you allude to Bristol, obviously got promoted whilst you were there. How big was that step up between Championship and moving up to Premiership? Was it night and day, or was it just everything was a little bit more?
Yeah, I quite often say I think most individual players could probably drop in and do okay and not look out of place. I think when we had a core group that had never played at that level before, which took a bit of time to get used to. And actually, I think in the season that we got promoted, I think we lost the first 6 or 7 games, but we actually had some really good performances after that. I remember we played in a Boxing Day against Worcester and a red card early on, and ended up winning the game, and then beat Sale away the week after. I think all Cardiff fans remember Sale away for some tough times. But yeah, so whilst had some tough times in that year at Bristol, it was fantastic to be exposed to Premiership, and again, I think you saw a lot of careers really develop in that year.
So obviously the main reason we have you on the pod, this being a Cardiff pod, you mainstay at Cardiff. So how did that initial loan spell come around? Was that something you asked? Were you asking for game time, or was someone coming around just sort of saying, "Do you fancy some games?"
Yeah, it was. It ended up a difficult end for me at Bristol. Obviously, my dad had been coaching and then wasn't coaching, which was tough for our family, really tough. And whilst it probably brought the best out of me as a player, with a bit of anger and sort of just focusing on my own game, that ended up as quite a tough couple of months for me. And And then at the end of that year, Pat Lamb came in and brought a couple of players with him. One of them being Dan Thomas, who's now playing at Cardiff. And I think Dan came in and we did a 1200-meter test, and he ran it in about 2.5 minutes. After that point, I thought, oh wow, he's fit. A fantastic player, and obviously Jack Lamb was still there at the time, and the opportunity came about. I knew Danny and Jockey really well from my time at Bristol, and the opportunity came about to come and play at Cardiff when Ellis and Sam were injured, and I jumped to the chance, and I'm delighted I did.
Coming into Cardiff in that season, it was obviously a little bit out of the frying pan into the fire, potentially, with obviously Danny announced he was leaving not long after, and it had been quite a tough start to that season. But what was it like off the field? What was the culture there like? Because I think, from sort of Christmas onwards, it was a world of difference from the first half of that season.
Yeah, I think in some ways that was probably the best team environment I've been involved in. I think we had a number of people in the building that just knew how to get the best out of each other, and challenged in the right way, but always had the team goal in mind towards the end, and we got into some really good momentum, and we sort of forgot how to lose by the end of the season. There were some games we had no right to be in, really, and I think of even the game we played out in South Africa after we'd had 55-hour delays, and we did lose it in the end. But I think it was my fault. I think I gave a penalty away at a scrum, which Gilly wasn't very happy with. I think it got down to the 90th minute when the Cheetahs scored against us, and having arrived that morning and straight into altitude. So yeah, I think we just had some really good people in the room that, as I say, knew how to get the best out of each other.
And obviously, the highlight of that season is the run to Bilbao and that lifting the Challenge Cup at the end. Was that something that was made quite clear that was an aim, or was it just something that you sort of got on that run and it developed into, right, we might actually win this?
I think with all competitions, once you get into the knockout stages, everyone's got a chance of winning, and I don't think I've ever been on the pitch and thought we haven't got a chance of winning this game. And actually, I think that brought the best out of that group, the kind of knockout feel, and I think I remember the Edinburgh game was fantastic, and Ellis scored that great try in the corner, and then probably my favourite game I've been involved in was the Powell home game, which I only ended up playing about 10 minutes, but the atmosphere and just the day and how fantastic the crowd and the feeling, it just felt like we were never going to lose that game. Probably can't say the same about the Bilbao game, because it really felt like we were going to lose that game. But yeah, there was just something about that side that I guess had it was almost meant to be.
Yeah. So speaking of sort of the movement for the Bilbao game, so we had a question from the site formerly known as Twitter, from Rob Hill. So he wants to know what the mood was like during that halftime during the final. Were you guys confident that you could win, or was it what was the overall feeling?
I was absolutely knackered. I can remember that. I think I'd gone to sit down on the bench, and before I'd even sat down, Naz was coming off, and I'm not sure I even gave. It's probably quite apt with recent things that have gone on, but I'm not sure I gave Danny and Jockey a chance. I think I was on the pitch before I gave them the chance to put someone else on. The game just started going away from us, I guess, and I think everyone was pretty calm at halftime. We hadn't fired a shot, and we just spoke about, we've got 40 minutes left in the season. You might as well give it your all, because there's not much else to play for after that. So it's quite a nice position to be in a final, really. That the pressure's sort of all on them at that point. We can't get any worse, and we went out and we're fortunate. We had a couple of pretty special players, and Thomas Williams and Jared and Gareth Hanson to kick us over at the end.
Yeah. So just sort of talking about that Cardiff squad in general. Obviously, you mentioned that you came over due to injuries to, one of the greats of Welsh rugby, Sam Warburton, Ellis Jenkins, who a lot of people thought would be a future Lions captain. How did that did all that competition in the back row? Do you think that made you a better player? And
yeah, definitely. Look, I absolutely loved working with Ellis in particular. Sam probably only ended up having a couple of sessions with him, but he was a great influence around the building. But yeah, I think I loved being on the pitch with Ellis. I think we worked really well together, and we kind of knew how to get the best out of each other, as I say, and still talk about now with some of the lads that I coach about some of the things that I picked up from Ellis, and I think whilst the competition is great, what was great about sort of Ellis, Navs, and myself was that we were all good mates as well at the same time. So yes, we were competitive with each other, but we also wanted the best for each other.
Just going back to Bilbao briefly while you were talking, it suddenly occurred to me that obviously you've given the last pass to Blaine Scully for his try in the corner. Just as that sort of long ball is coming over from Willis in midfield, how small is that ball getting as it's travelling towards you at that sort of crucial moment of the game?
I think I had cramp in both my calves at that point. So and I've watched that back a few times. Thought, why didn't I just go and try and score myself? And I think I made it as difficult as possible for Blaine to score in the corner. Took up too much space. A poor pass. Yeah, I've judged myself for that. Luckily, I was passing to one of the best finishers in the game, who managed to go and score. But don't really think about it at that point. I guess you just kind of, as I say, knackered, catch and pass, and then I was more thinking about the after Chicken kicked the penalty at the end. I realised as I was running back where they were going to end up kicking the next kickoff, which was right down the middle, which was going to be right at me. So luckily, one of my good mates, Jason Woodward, was chasing after it, and I had my eyes shut, and he managed to tap the ball back into my hands somehow. So we caught it. Yeah.
During obviously you were over at Cardiff for a good couple of years at a time when the residency window was 3 years, and there was sort of a running joke amongst Cardiff fans that your address was given as one of the hospitality boxes behind the sort of family stand there. Was there ever any suggestion of qualifying for Wales or anything like that?
No, I stayed living in Bristol for the whole time I played over in Cardiff. So no, I think no, definitely no, there wasn't.
Would you have considered it if it had been something?
Yeah, I absolutely probably would have done. But I think professional rugby is sort of different to the amateur era, and it's rare that people play hundreds of games for one side. Although Cardiff had a few fantastic clubmen that have done that, and people move around a bit more, and a chance to play at the highest level would never be something to give up. Whilst I am a very passionate Englishman.
Moving on from that first season, then obviously it was quite a lot of change that summer. Post Bilbao, all new coaching staff came in, and the sort of squad slowly evolved. There were a couple of the older statesmen of that group moved on and retired or headed elsewhere. Do you think, looking back, that like Cardiff properly kicked on from that Challenge Cup win, or was it difficult with the amount of changes that came in?
I think we had some great performances that next year. I think if you look at some of the Champions Cup games early on, the Lyon game, again, another one of my favourite games in a Cardiff shirt, and you even look at Sarries away that year when we had them rattled for a little bit, although they came back quite strongly second half. Did we probably not how we would have liked to. Like you say, the change the change in personnel makes that difficult at times. But I think everyone had absolutely the right intentions, and you could never doubt the character of the people that I played with and worked with at Cardiff.
So obviously you were at Cardiff during probably one of the most difficult periods for all rugby during the COVID thing. How was that disruption for you on both personal level and sort of part of the team as well?
Yeah, it was funny. We were supposed to be playing Zebra, I think, on the weekend, and we walked into the team meeting, and everyone's saying, "Look, we prepare as if we're playing. We're absolutely playing." You look on the TV, and it was absolute carnage in Italy, and thinking, "Blimey, this could be interesting." How was it? I was fortunate enough that I was able to have a rowing machine in my house, so I got quite obsessive about my rowing at the time, and I think Ellis and I were sending each other, Ellis, Rob Sowden Taylor, and I were sending each other our different times on the rowing machine throughout those sort of 3 months, I guess it turned out in the end. I think in hindsight, it was probably more disruptive than it felt at the time. It was a bit of a novelty, wasn't it? And a really nice time to be able to spend with family. And I think with hindsight, it probably affected rugby and careers more than maybe it felt at the time.
Obviously, coming back off the COVID break when the season got underway, we had a couple of games, and then John Mulvihill moved on. What was he like as a coach? What did you get along with him? And he obviously picked you quite a lot, so he obviously thought you were pretty decent.
Yeah, Mul was a great man. He's a typical Aussie, and I was fortunate enough to work with him in the Barbarians as well, and absolutely perfect for that environment, where he's really good at sort of bringing that team together, and that kind of team atmosphere in a short space of time. So yeah, he's a really good man.
And then obviously Dai Young comes in, and you fell out of favour with him a little bit. It seemed like, was it just the case that he wanted to put his own stamp on the squad, or what was the messages that you were receiving at that time?
Yeah, I guess that yeah.
That's fair enough. But before, whilst I was there, obviously you were part of what was another memorable game for Cardiff fans. I think everybody remembers the Misfits 15 as it was, and that week of the Challenge Cup Champions Cup you played against Toulouse. What was that week like? Sort of the squad thrown together and then the atmosphere on the day.
I was absolutely brilliant. I think there were a few of us who, well, I'd been involved with the Barbarians the week before to play against Samoa, which got cancelled on the day of the game. So I'd come off the back of a real disappointment, or what was a fantastic week, but kind of a disappointment of not running out at Twickenham against Samoa, and then I think Richie Reese and TRT set up a brilliant week for everyone involved for the Toulouse game, and it was sort of what rugby should be. It was fun. It was going out and expressing yourself, and no fear whatsoever, and got to play against some absolute legends of the game, which was fantastic.
And then after that was that your last appearance for Cardiff? I don't
It
think
was, yeah. I got COVID the week after, so I couldn't play against Harlequins, which was a shame. But a nice game to say was my last game for Cardiff.
You did have a stint with the Rags for a bit though, the start of the following season. What was it like sort of dropping into that semi-pro environment? Obviously, at the time the Rags were properly part of the pathway and sort of re-become the club's second 15 again. Was that sort of like a back to the old days, Mosley type stuff, or?
Yeah, look, I won't lie and say it was the easiest time for me. I was fortunate enough after the Toulouse game to go and have 6 months at Leicester, and where, so again, some of my best rugby memories from those 6 months. And we were fortunate enough I was fortunate enough to be involved with a fantastic side that obviously ended up winning the league, which are brilliant memories for me. And I got to work with Tom Harrison, who is the England scrum coach now, who actually I spoke about playing at Bath Minis when I was 6 years old. He was one of the lads I played with at Bath Minis at 6 years old. So there was a really nice synergy there, and Freddie Burns, who I'd been in Bath Academy with at 14. So yeah, it was a really sort of nice way. And I assume I presume it's now my sort of my last go at professional rugby. It was a nice way to finish there. Yeah, it was. Whilst the people involved with Cardiff RFC were fantastic, I won't lie and say it was the easiest time for me.
So, obviously, we sort of wrapped up your pro rugby career. So, what's life led you to nowadays? How were you paying the bills?
So I am working for St James Place, who are a wealth management company, and I work in their business department. So I work with financial advisors to sort of help expand their businesses and grow their businesses. And it's a really great job. I've very much out my comfort zone, and in a world I have not much idea of, but it's a real people business, and I've always loved working out what makes people tick and trying to get the best out of people. And yeah, it's I work in a really good team again, so it's good fun.
So, and day-to-day life, how what's changed since you've gone from pro rugby to I wouldn't say an ordinary job, but a non-pro rugby job?
Yeah, it's difficult. It's probably more difficult than anyone playing kind of expects it to be. Small things that I've never had to think about doing exercise before. It sort of came as part of the job. Whereas now I come home from a day, I've done 800 steps, I'm absolutely knackered, and I've got 2 screaming kids, and so yeah, it's there are definitely challenges with it. But we're absolutely so fortunate to have been able to experience what I experienced through my career, that just trying to make the most of this next part of my career as well.
You mentioned when we were chatting about coming on here that you're coaching Bristol Uni as well at the moment.
Yes.
And I remember, I think while you were still at sort of your last part of your time at the club, you were coaching Cardiff and Vale College while you were here as well. So is coaching obviously something that you want to get into? Is that something you enjoy?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I love the game. I love rugby, and I love talking about rugby. My dad is obviously a coach. My brother's a really good coach. I absolutely love being a part of the team at Bristol Uni, and there's some really, really good players down there, some really good people again, and as I say, just being involved in the game is fantastic. To be able to give something back is really nice.
Is that something that you could foresee going into maybe full time at some point, or is it just a
Yeah,
hobby for
absolutely. Never say never. I as I say, I absolutely love the game, and I've really enjoyed. It was nice to have a bit of a break from it, but I've really enjoyed being back involved. Now, so yeah, potentially.
We had a couple of social media questions. Andrew Ford, on the artist formerly known as Twitter, asked, were there any particular teams in either what is now the URC or in the European competitions that you particularly enjoyed or particularly hated playing against?
Well, interesting. It's a good question. I loved the hard games. I loved well, not there were any easy games, but playing against the best players and the best teams, and that Toulouse game to have run out against what was basically a France 15, and and give them a good run for their money for 50 minutes was fantastic. I think I potentially touched Dupont once in the game, so but look, the games against Sarries are games you remember, and I think my first start for Cardiff was Munster away in Thomond Park, which is a pretty cool place to have your first start. And yeah, to be honest, I was just really privileged every time I got to go on the pitch, and my aim was almost to make my family proud every time I played, and to just try as hard as I could, and I think get involved in as much as I could, and yeah, I wouldn't say there was any team I particularly hated playing against or loved playing against. They're just absolutely privileged to be able to get out on the pitch.
So who were sort of moving more individually? Who are the sort of best players you played either with or against through at your time at Cardiff? Well, anywhere really.
Oh, I've been really fortunate to play with some absolutely fantastic players. I think to play against, you can't look past Dupont, who clearly is one of the best players to ever play the game. I think of, as I say, Ross Rennie, being able to play with Ross Rennie, and Jack Lamb at Bristol was awesome. And I think someone like George Ford is absolutely fantastic. The way he speaks about the game, how clever he is, the way he plays the game, and I think I played against him 3 or 4 times, and as I say, not got near him once, which is pretty good for a fly half playing against the 7.
Yeah, excellent. So one of the questions from so we've got a couple from Facebook as well. So one of them's from Tony Espositi. I think Dan can correct me because he actually knows him. He's wondering what's it like being a cult hero at a club. So I say, you're a firm favourite for you. We've had many guests on this pod, and as soon as I told my mum that you were going on, I don't think I've seen a bigger smile.
Oh, that's very kind. What's your mum's name?
Helen.
Hi, Helen. That's a really difficult question to answer. I absolutely loved the fans at Cardiff. You know, they made me feel so welcome, and not only me, my family so welcome. And I'll always be thankful for the way you welcomed us. As well, I guess as foreigners, I guess. But yeah, I feel really privileged to have experienced some of the memories I've got of playing at the Arms Park, especially on as I say, either an evening or an afternoon game at the Arms Park. You can't beat it when it's full, and yeah, brilliant.
I feel like I should apologise to your dad at this point as well, because I'm pretty sure I harassed him for a photo away at Lyon in that Challenge Cup 2017-18 season. He just wanted a drink after the game, and I think we were queuing up to take photos with him.
No, he doesn't mind. He loves it, really. If you got a smile out of him, you'll have been very lucky.
I think your mum was loving it a bit more, laughing at him sort of with all this people waiting. Looking at sort of Cardiff now, obviously since you left, there's been a whole load of changes, and it's a very new playing squad. Which are the youngsters that we've seen break through were there when you were still at the club, and who are you maybe surprised or probably not surprised has gone on to become an established first team player or even into test level?
Oh, look, I think guys like Liam Belcher and Alan Lawrence are people you want to build your team around. You know, they're just quality individuals that give their all for 80 minutes and are absolutely the type of people and players you want in the environment. And I'm delighted to see that, obviously Alan had a difficult time going over to Jersey with what happened there. I'm absolutely delighted to see how well he's played this year. It's been fantastic, and it's great to see Dan playing well. And I think it's one of my favourite tries I've ever seen. Actually, his try of the day from the charge down. So yeah, look, I love some of the stuff that Jockey and Jockey's got going on, and I think Cardiff is very lucky to have a good group of young coaches.
Obviously, you mentioned that Jockey's somebody you know well from Bristol and then coming over here. Were you surprised that he sort of stepped up and become that head coach figure, or is it something that you always thought would happen for him eventually?
No, really surprised. No, look, he's a really good man, and I think him and Danny in particular work really well together, sort of getting the best out of each other. And it's great to see him back, and obviously he's building something fantastic in the way that Cardiff are going out and playing now, and whilst I guess the results haven't been there, and it is a results business, I can only see them coming at some point, and going out and playing in the right way and training in the right way. Yeah, as I say, I can only see success for Jockey and the team moving forward.
And then just sort of from being somebody who's obviously connected to Welsh rugby, but is outside the bubble as such, we mentioned off air about it's been a tough few weeks for the Wales national team and the changes going on in the game at the moment. Do you, watching Wales at the moment from outside and the young players coming through, is it sort of as bad as 12 losses in a row seems to be, or do you look at it and think actually, there's a lot of good young players there, and that there is something building for the future for this team?
Yeah, there's absolutely a group of really good young players there. You look at the likes of Jim, who had a fantastic game at the weekend. You look at Max Llewellyn in the centre. It's been an absolute pleasure watching him play this year, and I think I think with most teams, you're able to blood the youngsters with a core of experienced players with them, and I think you look at the likes of people that have sort of left that environment, I guess, with Alan Wynne and Dan Bigger and Ken Owens and Jonathan Davies and Alex Cuthbert, Liam Williams. They're rugby legends, and for these guys coming in, even someone like Thomas, who I think is in most people's eyes nailed on as a Lion starter, he gets injured the first game, and then it's really difficult for the young lads coming in, and Ellis did really well. I think it's just the without that sort of experience and leadership, it can be tough, and they'll no doubt be better for it.
And then just to sort of start winding down a little bit, back to club action, and this weekend Cardiff are facing the Dragons, probably a team that I don't think you would have actually lost to them. You'd only have beaten them, I think, because it's 18 games in a row. I think we've beaten them now in the league.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah.
What are your sort of memories of that derby in particular? It's obviously the sort of local rival one for us. Is it? I think everybody from the other three clubs likes to beat Cardiff as the capital, but is the Dragons the one that you sort of remember as the big one for the players?
Yeah, I guess so. I think obviously coming in from as I say, I was just privileged to get on the pitch as much as I did, and I loved every game I played in. I wouldn't say I treated one game differently to any other game in the way I prepared, but those Dragons games were definitely special. Think about the Boxing Day game in the pouring rain, probably that must have been 2017. which was definitely not one for the neutral, but was a great win. Yeah, I didn't know that it was 18 games unbeaten, which is there'll be a bit of bite, I guess, with Shane Lewis-Hughes playing against his good mates. So I look forward to see. I think he's had a great start to the season, so I look forward to seeing him go again. And yes, it should be a good game.
Harley, anything else from yourself?
You're not going to make me ask the biscuit question, aren't you?
Well, no, I wasn't going to bring it up.
We'll skip that one. You did ask, it's fine. Just off the top of head, do you think, would you care to narrow us to a mass for a prediction for the Dragons game, or?
Oh, wow. Prediction for the Dragons game.
Just remember, it's at home, and you are a Cardiff cult hero. So just to have that in the background.
How many games did you say it was?
I think it's 18 in a row.
18 league games in a row. The last time they beat us was in a Challenge Cup quarter-final, I think, in 2015. And that was at Rodney Braid.
Wow. I think it would probably be Cardiff by 5.
Take that big time.
I'm well happy. That's what I predicted on the wrap. So there you go.
But very much sat on the fence at the same time.
Right. Well, yes. I was going to go. I just like battering the Dragons, So I was going to give a sort of Cardiff by 25 or something like that. I
don't think we'll get a repeat of Boxing Day.
You never know. It might come back around another 8-try fest or whatever it was last time. Yourself?
I said on the wrap, I predicted Cardiff by 5, so I'll stick with it. I think Dragons have improved quite a lot this season, but I still think we'll push ahead.
There we go. Well, hopefully that does turn out to be the case on Saturday with 3 Cardiff wins, so we can't predict it, can't go wrong. Before that, though, Ollie, thank you very much for your time, mate. Thanks, and thank you on behalf of all Cardiff fans for your stint at the club as well. Obviously, didn't quite get the send off that you really deserved, but hopefully we'll see you back down the Arms Park at some point in the near future, and we can sort that out.
Appreciate that, guys. Thank you very much for having me on, and best of luck. Best of luck at the weekend.
Cheers. Just before we go, time to say if you've enjoyed the podcast, you can subscribe on YouTube. I think we're over 1,000 subscribers now. Like and share whatever podcast format that you do listen to. We'll be back next week reviewing the Dragons game, looking ahead to the Challenge Cup season that's to come after that as well. But until then, Harley, thank you.
Cheers.
And good night.